Welcome to the second lesson, air and water. Now, air is something that we see all around us, isn't it? But we cannot hold air. Like I'm holding a pen, you cannot hold air. But now when I clasp my hands like this, there is air inside. So air occupies space. Now I am able to hold a pen, but I cannot hold air. But though my hands are clasped, there is air inside. Remember, air, the property of air is that air has weight and occupies space. Later on in this chapter, we will come to an experiment to tell you how air has weight and air occupies space. Now, water. Water is another important item that is required for our survival. We use water for so many purposes, for drinking, bathing, cooking, cleaning, for agriculture, for generating electricity. So, water has innumerable uses for us. Now, coming to the lesson on page 172, name three objects that need to be filled with air before being used. So, balloon, if it has to fly up, it needs to be filled with air. A ball, if it has to have a round, bouncy shape, it has to be filled with air. And the tires of cycles need to be pumped with air so that it will give a cushiony ride when you ride the cycle. Second one, name three states of water. Now, in the solid state, water is known as ice. In the gaseous state, it is known as steam. And in the liquid state, it is just plain water. So, water exists in three forms: the gaseous state, the liquid state, and the solid state. Now, coming to the first topic, air. The earth is surrounded by a layer of air called the atmosphere. It extends thousands of kilometers above the earth's surface. The atmosphere is important for life on the earth as it provides oxygen for breathing. It also provides carbon dioxide to plants to make food. The atmosphere protects the earth from becoming too hot or too cold. It also causes weather changes. The ozone layer of the earth protects the earth from the harmful rays of the sun. The earth is surrounded by a layer of air called the atmosphere. It extends thousands of kilometers above the earth's surface. The atmosphere is important for life on the earth as it provides oxygen for breathing. It also provides carbon dioxide to plants to make food. The atmosphere protects the earth from becoming too hot or too cold. It also causes weather changes. The ozone layer of the earth protects the earth from the harmful rays of the sun. Now, what we see around us is the air, and the air covers the whole of the earth. Now, the air is rich in two gases, mainly oxygen and nitrogen, and there are traces of other gases like ozone, carbon dioxide, argon, helium, neon, hydrogen. But the two major components of air are nitrogen and oxygen. Now, this air is covering the earth like an envelope, and this air has a layer known as the ozone layer, which is very important because the ozone layer controls the rays, that ultraviolet rays that come out from the sun reaching the earth. Now, if this ozone layer was not there, the temperature of the earth would be very, very high because it would receive all the radiation given out from the sun. So, this ozone layer forms a protective covering actually for the earth, and you can say it is, reduces the amount of ultraviolet rays that are sent to the earth from the sun. Now, this air that is around us is also rich in oxygen, which we use for breathing. Along with us, the plants and animals also are in need of oxygen. Now, coming to the composition of air. Air is a mixture of gases. Air is mainly composed of nitrogen and oxygen. Small amounts of other gases such as argon, helium, neon, hydrogen, ozone, carbon dioxide and water vapor are also present. So, air is a composition of many gases. The majority is taken up by oxygen and nitrogen. As I told you, ozone forms the protective layer for the earth, and the other gases are hydrogen, neon, argon and helium. Next one, air also contains dust and smoke. So these are the two substances that are also present in air. Too much of dust and smoke pollute the air. So air pollution is caused by too much of dust and smoke. Now let us go on to the properties of air. Air occupies space. As I had told you in the beginning of the lesson, air occupies space. We cannot see air, but we can feel it. Air is also matter, and like all matter, air occupies space. It is because air occupies space that the football bladder, balloons and tubes in bicycle tires can be inflated. As I told you, air is all around us. I can hold this pen in my hand, but I cannot hold air like this. But remember, I cannot see, but there is air in this part of my hand. Air is not visible to us, but air is all around us. So though I can hold a pen like this, I cannot hold air like this. But remember, in this hand, there is air. And one thing, as I told you, if you blow up a balloon, a small balloon, it becomes big because of your blowing air into the balloon. So that shows that air occupies space. When the balloon becomes big, it is obvious and very clear that air occupies space. Now, when you go to a cycle shop to pump air into your bicycle tire, the man who pumps air, he is pumping air into the bicycle tire, and the tire becomes big and inflated. And that is also one way in which you can prove that air occupies space. Now you see the picture there of a boy blowing a balloon. He blows air into a balloon and the balloon becomes inflated. So naturally we understand that air occupies space. Now the next experiment will be to tell you how to prove that air has mass, that is, air has weight. Take a stiff wire or a stick about 1 meter long, blow up 2 balloons and tie their string to the 2 ends of the stick as shown in the diagram. Hang the stick by tying another piece of string to its middle. Balance the stick by moving the balloons. Now make a small slit in the neck of one of the balloons so that air escapes from it slowly. What do you observe? Is the stick balanced now? Which end is heavier? Why? Take a stiff wire or a stick about 1 meter long. Blow up 2 balloons and tie their string to the 2 ends of the stick as shown in the diagram. Hang the stick by tying another piece of string to its middle. Balance the stick by moving the balloons. Now make a small slit in the neck of one of the balloons so that air escapes from it slowly. What do you observe? Is the stick balanced now? Which end is heavier? Why? Now follow the text where I explain. Now the first diagram shows you that there are 2 inflated balloons. They are equally balanced in that picture. Both have the same size and they are equally balanced. Now the second one, you have, there's a center portion there. A stick is made to stand in the center, so they are equally balanced from the center, equally placed from the center. And the third one, what you have to do is just make a tiny prick on one of the balloon. So when you prick the balloon, what happens is air passes out, the balloon decreases in size. Now immediately you will find that one side of the equally balanced stick tilts down and the other side goes up. Now the side that tilts down is the one which has the balloon that is inflated, and the one that goes up is the balloon which has no air. So it is very clear here that air has weight, because the balloon which has weight, that side comes down, and the balloon which has no air has no weight and it rises up. It is the same thing like playing on a seesaw. When you sit with your friend on a seesaw, when both sides are equally balanced, it is very easy to have the game of seesaw. But when one side has nobody and you are sitting on one side, you will always be down. The other side will always be up. So to balance it, somebody else has to sit with almost approximately weight like yours, and it becomes balanced. So here this experiment very clearly proves to you that the side that comes down has a balloon that is inflated and that balloon has weight, whereas the other side is up because that balloon is not inflated, it does not have air and has no weight. So this experiment clearly tells you that air has mass. So the first experiment was that air occupies space, and the second experiment is that air has mass. Now look and learn. Take a glass and fill it completely with water. Take a thick card paper and place it over the glass. Place your hand over the card paper and quickly overturn the glass. Now slowly remove your hand. What do you observe? Does the water flow out? No, the water will not flow out. You will observe that the water does not flow. This is because air below the card paper exerts pressure and keeps it in place. So this can be done by you at home, and you will very nicely understand the experiment than me explaining it. So I want each of you to try this experiment. Look and learn on page 173 at home. It is very good for you to understand the concept that air exerts pressure. You keep a card paper and then take a glass of water and invert on the card paper. Then slowly pull the card paper. You will see that the water remains where it is. Water does not flow out. This is because the air around that glass, rim of the glass, exerts pressure and does not allow the water to flow out. That is why I am telling you, better than me explaining the experiment, it is better if you will get a first-hand experience by doing it at home. Let's go to the next page, page 174. Air exerts pressure. Anything that has mass, mass means another word for weight. Anything that has mass exerts pressure. So air also exerts pressure. So the first thing was that air occupies space, air has mass, and now air exerts pressure. How can we keep the air clean? Plant more trees, use bicycles or walk short distances instead of using motor vehicles, using fuels such as LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, and CNG, compressed natural gas, reduces air pollution. Factories that release smoke should be located away from where people live. Now these are the various methods how you have to keep air clean. Now the best thing is not to burst firecrackers, because when you light or burn firecrackers, a lot of carbon dioxide or smoke is released in the atmosphere that pollutes the atmosphere. Then you can plant trees, because that's a good way of purifying the air. Use bicycles or walk short distances. Now whenever you are traveling by a vehicle, whether it is a car or a bus, remember there is smoke given out that pollutes the atmosphere. But when you travel by a bicycle or ride a bicycle, there is no pollution because there is no smoke given out. Next one is using fuels such as LPG and CNG reduces air pollution. Now in olden days, in our houses, our mothers and grandmothers used to use firewood. Now when you burn firewood, there's a lot of smoke given out, and that results in a lot of carbon dioxide gas being released into the atmosphere, and that pollutes the atmosphere. So it is advisable now to use LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, that is there in the cylinder in your house. So the gas cylinder in your house has liquefied petroleum gas. That is gas, but it is in a liquid form. When it comes to the surface and is ignited by a matchstick or a gas burner, it is the gas form. But remember, when it is in the cylinder, it is in a liquid form. That is why it is called liquefied petroleum gas, LPG. And then also you should remember that factories which give out smoke should not be located near to cities or places where people are having houses, because that also causes a lot of pollution. With this we come to the end of this first part of this chapter.